So Dana White was on Andrew Schulz's and the Toy Story Boys podcast, Flagrant. Don't like Andrew Schulz, don't like watching the Toy Story Boys slapping their thighs every 30 seconds at things that just aren't funny. However, if it's got Dana White on it, I'm a massive UFC fan and combat sports fan. I'm probably going to watch it. And I watched most of the interview, but I'm talking specifically about the part where he covered about Francis Ngannou grabbing him. And I think he said also Hunter Campbell's back of his collar, basically being a diva, being what we would call aggressive and making demands. It's just really interesting because you can love or hate Dana White, and I wouldn't say I'm particularly a fan of Dana White. I disagree with actually a lot of what he says. I think he's very flippant. I think he holds grudges on a massive nuclear scale with people. He does, it seems to me, value loyalty when it suits him in certain friendships or certain circles. You can quite clearly see he does have loyalty and trust as a big thing when it suits him, though. I don't think he's very transparent about the UFC. Clearly, he's protecting his brand, the UFC's brand, etc. We all know that about Dana White. So I don't believe what I'm trying to say is pitching that. I don't believe everything he says, right? But when he's on this podcast, which isn't a small podcast by any means, there's 2 million subscribers, right? It's interesting that he would, number one, share this, openly. You could see he was kind of debating about whether to share it or not. But number two, it's do you believe him, right? We all see this image of Francis Ngannou. Yes, he's a monster. He's just, so dangerous and so destructible and frightening, right? A frightening human being. You wouldn't like to be in a dark alley with Francis Ngannou at 3:00 in the morning. You know what I'm saying? And he comes across as this quite meek and very lightly spoken man. He's like, oh, Ariel, I'm going to knock him out. He's got this, I'm just bored doing these videos, but he's got these oh yeah. He's just very gentle giant approach. But I don't put it past Dana what he's saying. My first instinct is, why would he lie about this on a podcast with 2 million subscribers? And people might say, well, for the clout, it keeps him present, it keeps him in the media limelight. And I'm like, I don't know if Dana's that smart to think that way. This guy's 56, 57. There's obviously his brain's not fully functioning. He can't even formulate a sentence properly a lot of the time. He certainly doesn't have a good memory when it comes to UFC, past events, fights, current fighters. I would argue that he doesn't even know he couldn't label and name the top 8 to 10 in each weight division. And as a president of a company, you should know that. Without even thinking, you should be able to go through. For me and you, it doesn't really matter. My point is, I kind of believe Dana White. I don't know why he would say this out loud on a podcast in front of quite a few people watching it, let's be fair. Whether you love Andrew Schulz or hate him, it's a big claim to make, and it paints Francis in a certain light. Now, I know he's said things in the past about Francis Ngannou, and people are kind of, is Dana bullshitting? Is this legit? Is it true what he's saying? And then Francis, of course, has been on Ariel Helwani's podcast, several other outlets as well, pretty much saying the same thing about Dana, that he, in a nice, polite way, of course. But it begs the question, is Francis a bad man? Because Dana was he's a bad, bad man. It's is he? It seems, I just can't seem to think he would make that up and also bring in Hunter Campbell into it. So for me, I think he's telling the truth. And there is a bit of a trend developing, right? It clearly had this massive ego, which I think actually Francis admitted a few years ago when he got mollywopped by Stipe Miocic in the first fight, which I believe it might have been 2018. I think it was that first fight, maybe. And he was somewhat green and he got mollywopped and he got exposed. He had a big ego. We thought he was the best thing since sliced bread. He was knocking everybody out by flicking them or touching them, seemingly. And he got taught a lesson. He got schooled by Stipe, right, over 5 rounds. And I think I remember an interview with him when he came out and said, listen, yeah, I had that he did actually. It was Mike Tyson interview a few years ago. And he said to Mike Tyson, I had a massive ego. So he owned up. So it kind of must have been around that time when he did all this. Whether he's changed or not, who knows? But he was placing demands about like private jets or whatever he wanted. But you've got to understand as well, experience drives belief. And what is actually going on in PFL with him right now? He's had one fight. He got sparked out by Anthony Joshua. Yeah, he took Tyson Fury the distance. I mean, I think he won that fight actually against Tyson Fury. But regardless, like, what is going on? Because I think the president of the PFL came out like a few months ago and said he's disappointed with Francis. So there's a bit of a trend going on. I'm not saying he's an outright bad guy like Dana, but he knows him more than me. But there's definitely a trend going on with Francis Ngannou here. I'm not saying what he did with the UFC, standing up for his rights, was bad of him. I think that's actually good and noble of the guy to do that, to stick up for his rights. He knows what he's worth, right? And we all know UFC fighters just aren't getting paid what they're worth and their value. It's pretty clear to see compared to what the UFC are turning over in terms of profit annually, which is fully disclosed, of course, to the public, relatively speaking. But something's amiss with Francis Ngannou. I'm going to look forward to see if he comes back with some kind of response. He doesn't seem that kind of natured guy that he would. But it wouldn't surprise me if Ariel Helwani covers this and he also maybe speaks to Francis in the next week about this. Maybe. We'll see. I quite like Ariel Helwani. I know a lot of people don't. I actually do respect him as a journalist. So yeah, let's watch this space, but very, very interesting. It doesn't surprise me though. So this sort of meek, quiet, African gentle giant might be a bad guy, you know? So don't believe everything you hear and see. And that goes to what Dana White says as well, bear in mind. But in this occasion, I do believe what Dana's saying.